Right now, we welcome in our first guest today to BYU Sports Nation. He's an accomplished author, a friend of the program. His name is Jeff Benedict. He has done numerous pieces on BYU football players, and now he is in the heart of college basketball in Raleigh, North Carolina, following a very well-known LDS player, Jabari Parker, while he is on the Duke basketball team. Jeff, welcome back to the show. How have you grown as a college basketball fan being in the midst of all of that?
Well, first of all, it's great to be back. And I've been with Duke this whole season, dating back to the preseason. I've been with them on the road and, all over the country. And I was there for the ACC tournament. So I've pretty much seen almost every Duke game live this year. And I think when you're around that program that much and around Jabari that much, the learning curve gets sped up a bit. So,
sure.
It's been fascinating to watch, and they're a really solid team, and the ACC is considered, probably the best, if not second best conference in the country this year. Extremely good competition. The ACC tournament was fantastic, and Jabari's the best player in the ACC, no question. And it's as a freshman, that's pretty impressive.
I enjoyed your article, especially the part where you talked about your son, who isn't a basketball fan, I guess is 14, but you took him to Duke, North Carolina. I would like to get invited next time you go to that, by the way, as well. But he had a wonderful experience, it sounded like, going to the game. Tell us a little bit about his experience and how Jabari Parker was a part of that.
Well, the Duke-North Carolina game is clearly the biggest rivalry in college basketball. Some people think it's the best rivalry in college sports right now. It's just a very unique atmosphere between those two teams. And they finished this regular season at Duke. It was a heck of a game. And I brought my son, even though he doesn't really like basketball, I brought him because it was his birthday, and I had to work the game. So he traveled with me. I was able to get him into the game, and he really didn't have a seat anywhere near me. He was like up in the rafters. And so I had talked to the Cameron Crazies, who are the students that sit right behind me, probably the craziest fans in college basketball, and they said, hey, he can just stand with us. They don't sit. And so he stood right behind me in the student section, and basically the plan was after the game, I was going to bring him in the locker room and let him meet Jabari, but it was such a hectic scene because Jabari was the player of the game, and there was just a lot of national media there that I just couldn't make it happen. And so it was a little disappointing for him and disappointing for me as his dad to not be able to deliver that. And anyways, later that night, I was writing a post-game story in our hotel room around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Jabari texted me and said, what room are you in? And I'm like, are you in the hotel? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And he was down in the lobby. And the only reason he had come was to see Clancy. And the fact that he, made the effort was fantastic. And he showed up in our room. I had to get Clancy out of bed. He was sound asleep. And the next thing you know, Jabari's in our hotel room sitting on his bed. And he sat there for quite a while and just talked to him. And it was really, I signed a bunch of autographs for him, and it was took some pictures, and as my son said, the best birthday present he's ever had. It was it was really quite unique, yeah. And the Duke fans got a hold of it because I did a blog about it, and I got more traction on that blog. I've been blogging for 3 years. And I've had some pretty good blogs, but that one got into Duke country and just went like wildfire.
Viral stuff. Jabari Parker is a really good person, and that's just a testament, that story right there, to what kind of an individual he is. He's not a flashy. He doesn't want a lot of attention. He's not the guy that seeks after the flash of the cameras and whatnot. But he is a very talented player. So a guy that doesn't want the attention yet gets it. How does he manage the limelight from the national pundits?
He manages it well just because he treats it like a job, and he knows it's something that he has to do. And you're right to the extent that he's not a camera-hungry guy, and he's not particularly flashy, but I have to tell you, if you've been watching him in the last month, his game has changed, and the kinds of plays he's been making, like in the championship game Sunday against Virginia, there was a sequence where he I mean, he looked like Michael Jordan. I mean, he stole an inbounds pass on the other end, and he dribbled the length of the court, took off from just inside the three-point line. He went airborne, and he lofted the ball way up above his head and just soared over a defender. And the dunk he made was just, I mean, it brought the house down. It was just the kind of play you seldom see from any college player. And he wasn't trying to be flashy, but I got to tell you, it was flashy. I mean, it was just, you could see the bulbs going off. And then he stole the ball again and knocked down a three, and then he hit another. I mean, in a matter of like 40 seconds, he put in 7 points, 2 steals, a rebound, and you could see how quickly this guy is capable of taking over a game.
Author Jeff Benedict is on BYU Sports Nation. The country is college football crazy, but it seems like, and especially this time of year, and we've seen it here in Provo where BYU football has taken a backseat to BYU basketball as they're in the NCAA tournament. There's still a lot of passion for college basketball.
Oh, I think there's an enormous amount of passion for college basketball. And it's different than football. I mean, football is kind of a sustained thing that really heats up, obviously, in late August and carries on through the bowl season. But basketball has this tendency to it's a building process. And the real hardcore fans are interested as soon as the season opens. But the truth is, by this time of year, the whole country's in it. Everybody has an office pool. The whole country is focused on it. And the tournament season, between the conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament, you have a lot of people who don't even follow basketball but who follow the tournament. And it is really a unique event in the sense that football doesn't have anything like it. You know, we don't have tournaments in football. It would be difficult to replicate that. But for basketball, with the buzzer beaters and the underdogs and guys who, you know, can get into the tournament and then do things that they get on a national stage when all year long they might be in a conference that doesn't get much national television exposure. Suddenly they're on the national stage playing teams like Duke and Kansas and Kentucky, and it's their opportunity to shine. And I'm certainly not surprised that BYU fans are into it as much as they are. I mean, they have a good team this year. They have a great scorer. And, you know, they're in a decent bracket. You know, there's teams there that they're capable of beating if they're on, even though, you know, one of their best players isn't going to be with them.
Jeff Benedict, special features writer for Sports Illustrated and critically acclaimed author, joining BYU Sports Nation with Spencer Linton and Jerem Jordan. This is something I've wanted to know for a while, Jeff, and that is, with the access that you have to Jabari, have you guys had a conversation about BYU and the recruitment of Jabari here at BYU? And if so, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, absolutely. Talked about it, you know, numerous times. I mean, we talked about it a lot when he was going through the decision-making process, and we've talked about it, you know, since. As recently, in fact, as, you know, a couple weeks ago. But I think the thing for him is, with regard to BYU, is that he had a really good relationship with your assistant coach, and liked him a lot, an awful lot.
Yeah.
Mark Pope, yeah. He liked Mark a lot. Mark's not only a really good coach, but a great guy. And he related to Jabari, or probably more importantly, Jabari related to him. And so the visits to BYU were genuine in the sense that Jabari is really big on loyalty, and I think he felt a degree of loyalty to Mark. So that was genuine. But I think, you know, as I've written in Sports Illustrated, that Jabari's decision to go to Duke was really a decision he'd made a long time ago.
Interesting.
Now, he didn't finalize the decision until the day before he announced it. But that's where he wanted to go for a long time. That doesn't mean that other schools didn't have any chance, and so why bother going to those schools? That's not really a good way to look at it. I think the way to look at it is that he's a thoughtful kid who really did want to explore all the options, and he had a list that he narrowed down to 5 for a reason. And he made campus visits to Michigan State and Florida and BYU for a reason. It's because he did want to look at what those schools had to offer and at least be able to consider what would be the scenario if I came here. And the scenarios at BYU and Florida and Michigan State were all different. And if you look at those 3 programs, it's interesting if you kind of rewind the clock and say, where would BYU be today if Jabari had come there? Or look at Florida.
We try not to think about that, Jeff.
Yeah, that one kind of hurts.
But I mean, the thing is, even Florida has the best team right now. They're the number one overall ranked team in the tournament. And he almost went there. Well, I shouldn't say he almost went there, but that was one of the schools he visited and gave serious consideration to. And so all these schools, can do that. But I mean, I think the point is that he made the trips for a reason. He didn't waste his time or theirs just for flying around the country. He explored all the options, and at the end of the day, none of them were better options in his mind than Duke, which was his leading candidate going into the process. And so I thought for a young man his age to approach it the way he did was pretty grown up and a pretty mature way to do it. And I thought all along that he followed the right process. He had a good process, and he made the right decision. I thought it was he was leaning the right way when he went into it, and I think he definitely made the right decision. And that's a lot more evident now than it was when he first announced it. When he first announced it, you hope it's the right thing. It sounds like it, it feels like it, but we won't really know until we get in there. Well, now that he's been there a year, I think that there's no question that he made the right call. He went to the right school, the right program, and most importantly, he went to the right coach.
Well, BYU fans were certainly hoping that Jabari would come to BYU, but they've been watching his career with interest, and a lot of which has come through you and your articles and your access. Jeff, we appreciate the time. Have fun in Raleigh as you follow Duke in the tournament.
Enjoy the journey.
Hey, thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.